Okay, everybody, let me know if this is working out. You should be able to hear me pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my coding navigator, and hopefully you guys see that. I'm going to just kind of slide into Slack and confirm that people can hear me. If you are watching and are in the Slack team, let me know in live coding or let me know in the live chat on YouTube. I want to obviously make sure that you guys can hear me before I get going here. So make sure that you guys can. All right, a friend of mine texted me and let me know that he can hear me, so I'm going to go ahead and get going here. So today I'm going to show you what my process is like for open source contribution to a nonprofit group that I work for called Operation Code. They work kind of in two paths simultaneously as an organization. On one end, they work really hard to get the Hill to move legislation forward to get the GI Bill and Veterans Affairs benefits for veterans who wish to seek coding boot camps as opposed to traditional university education, because honestly, coding boot camps work. They get you a job, they get money into your family to feed them. And so, yeah, we just want to make sure veterans can do whatever they want with their benefits. And on the other side, we try to make a platform that helps veterans learn how to code. The platform itself pretty much consists of a Slack team with a lot of mentorship, one-on-one or in terms of asking questions on channels. But the eventual goal is to have a web platform where mentors and mentees can track each other online. So the website that we currently have is not yet quite there, but for now we're working on making sure that our static content is all there for our leadership to pass along the website for any kind of legislative people to look at. So I'm going to be opening up the Operation Code front end. The code's opened up. This is a nice little welcome screen with Visual Studio. The technology I'm using today is Visual Studio, Chrome, and iTerm 2 with ZSH. If you have any questions at all, feel free to message me. I'll be popping into the live coding Slack team every now and then. So the first thing that I do usually when I spin up is I'll go to my terminal to change it in the directory. So the cd command gets me to the desktop, and my folder structure is really funny. It is well organized, maybe a little too much though. Anyways, I'm moving in the directory now. Obviously, as you can see, my terminal kind of tells me that I'm on a branch called footer improvement. This branch didn't work as well as I had hoped. We actually reverted the change, but regardless, I'm going to go back to master. And it's kindly letting me know that my branch is behind origin, so I'm going to pull. And just to make sure that I get it from online, I'll add an origin. Let's just try this. What? Oh, I'm already on master. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so we can get a good status here. Let's try this again. Looks better. Oh boy. So I've got a shortcut, get st is just get status. I use that command very often, so I made an alias for it. All right, we're in. Let's see if I can do the switch here. I tried to set up hotkeys for this. That went to my browser. You don't want to be inceptioned. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Still new at this, trying to figure out the hotkeys I set up. Okay, so now we're inside the coding terminal. I'm actually gonna bring it back to the browser because it is now time for us to navigate GitHub and see what kind of tasks are available for us. The internet is likely going to go very slow. All right, there's my cheesy face. Let's go ahead and click on notifications, see if there's any news for us to keep track of. Let's find out what Seth was doing over here. I'm going to have to check out this PR and approve it probably. I want to see if Harry gives me any more details on what he was talking about in the Slack team. He's unable to log in, it seems. And even though this is probably out of my scope, I'm going to check out Conrad's issue on SendGrid. All right. Looks like this is a beginner-friendly contribution, so if anybody's watching and wants to make an open source contribution, I'm going to go ahead and leave this. This, I'm trying to just make sure what the actual script itself does. It's kind of anonymized. But if I had to guess, it looks like it's an analytics tracker. And I think this is just going to end up going right into the bottom, in between the body HTML tags of index.html. You can see this on our coding screen in the file structure. So if I kind of close up here, here's kind of the file structure that we'll be working with. There's a lot of folders that I wish I could just like hide and not have to show you, but pretty much we're going to be worried about everything within source. And I was going to show you index.html, which is on the top level. So I believe integration of this issue is just the implementation of a script. It looks like in the head. So if you want to grab this, you just copy paste this text, make a branch or fork the repository if you're not a contributor, or if you are a contributor, go ahead and make a branch, and then copy paste this text that I showed you on GitHub into the HTML file, and then go ahead and push that up, and that'll finish off this issue. All right, there we go. Here. Okay, so we've handled that. I don't need to look at that anymore. I probably should have added the available flag issue to it, or label rather, but shouldn't be an issue. Huh. I could read all this, but I feel like I don't need to, nor should I. I do not know what's going on here. All right, I'm going to close this tab. I don't know why it showed me Seth's squash. Change links to absolute paths. It looks like Rick already made the changes. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, just affixing forward slashes to all of these. I'm just checking if there's any typos or anything like that. Usually, obviously, Rick does some pretty good work. He's pretty much the project manager. I'm going to go ahead and prove it. I'll allow it, Rick. Should I be discussing in the newbies Slack channel, or should I try to just keep watching live coding? I can't tell if people are watching and discussing from there. anyways, the approve's been made. I'm going to go ahead and rebase, which means I'm going to have to come back to my terminal, and I'm going to have to do another git pull. And usually GitHub's pretty fast with their webhooks, so it should be instant. There's a change. All right, back to the browser. I'm going to go delete the branch. I'm not too worried ever about deleting branches because it's pretty easy to restore it, even on old issues, if I remember correctly. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that just in case anybody's curious. I'll go to an older PR. This was a week ago. If I click on it, let's see if I can restore the branch. Yeah, see, it's just that easy. So I don't feel bad usually about deleting branches anymore. I was worried, but yeah. All right. And the last tab that we got to check out is Harry's having a big problem not being able to log in. And I'm not going to tackle this one because I would likely be putzing about and doing a lot of research and not talking to you guys too much. And Seth is back, so hopefully he can tackle this one. I actually already assigned myself an issue, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys our project structure. As you can see, we've got a lot of flashy labels. Usually, if you come in here and are curious about what you'd like to do, we've tried to set it up on the front end to where you can, search a milestone by priority. So obviously, our first priority and our second highest and third highest priority are what you want to kind of like aim for. So if I know, for instance, that I'm doing static, I can click on this and it's going to filter out only having the issues in the first milestone, which is static content. These are pages that probably don't rely on the back end. We can just kind of serve up content on our own. And then we can sort by critical priority. And as you can see, I've actually already assigned myself this issue. Today we're going to be making the press page. So I'm going to kind of go in here. I'm going to move the pipeline. This is actually, nobody can see this except for people with ZenHub. This tab doesn't exist unless you use ZenHub. Can't quite tell, but please let me know on Slack if you guys are listening and want me to kind of glance at the channel. So far, I don't see any kind of feedback. I'm going to drop the ready label and move to in progress. This is actually kind of, I don't want to call it a bug, but something we need to sort out for ourselves. We had set up Waffle.io, which is a Scrum board kind of manager, and it added its own labels. Unfortunately, I'd rather Waffle be grabbing from our current labels. But just to make sure if anybody uses our Waffle board, I just want to make sure that they realize that it's not available for them to grab, that I have this issue. It's all mine. All right. So create a press page. This is kind of like the syntax we've been using on our issues. Basically what that means is we would like the user to be able to go to operation code/press. As you will see, if you go to this route, you will hit a 404 error. Well designed by our own Evan Cooper. So we don't want that. What we do want is a website that contains media sources and a website where partners can come to the page and quickly download a press kit. So I'm going to have to get assets today at some point, and I'll take a break on the live stream when that point comes, and I will ask the appropriate people for some images to grab. For now, though, I've got wireframes, which I actually already made last week using Adobe XD. And if Conrad's watching, just so you know, this website's ownership is up, so we can actually access the branding information. So I'm going to open the wireframes, and we want to design mobile first, but I kind of want to show you both the wireframes just to give you an idea of what we're looking for. Okay. So here's the Adobe XD share. This is kind of the vibe that we are trying to go for. Any page that we're making right now, I'd consider a minimum viable product, or MVP, which means everything we put out as a draft. It might not be the final form. Like if you come back in a year, the website might not look like this. But for now, this is what we agreed on, and this is how we're going to get the page out there. So we've got the press section, and I wrote this little blurby paragraph because I actually recorded myself wireframing this as well. And so I'm going to have to get some content from people, which I will also kind of take a break from and maybe draft up some content without wasting your time on live stream. But I'll probably just lorem ipsum this stuff. But the idea is you come to this page as either a code school representative, a potential corporate partner, or like a newspaper or an online blog. And we want to have information easy for you to access and a summary of what this page is about. And if you come down, these are supposed to be the press releases. So you can click on press releases and it will likely open like, a new blog article eventually. For now, it'll likely be external references to all of our Medium articles. And then as you continue to scroll, we're going to have embedded videos and embedded photos. So that's the vibe we're going for. And on mobile, this is what we want it to look like. This is actually outdated. This little button's a lot smaller now. But here's what we want it to look like on mobile. So I don't want to deal with embedded videos or photos on mobile because I actually hate seeing those myself. But if you click on this link, my idea was that it'll take you to the YouTube application and will open our channel. And photos could potentially take us to some kind of Google Drive maybe, or that Squarespace branding website. Okay, we've got the wireframes open. I think it's time for us to kind of open up our local development. When I am in my terminal and when I have pulled from master, I just like to do this just in case anybody's added the dependency, because I don't want to be coding and like stuff not work and me kind of scratching my head not knowing why. I know you're seeing action right there, but it was actually just checking to make sure none of them are updated. So our dependency has been installed. I'm going to go ahead and make a branch. So you can make this two ways. You can make a branch like this and call it something. And then you have to check out the branch itself. I've gotten in the habit of just doing this command with this flag. And then let's call it press page. All right, so as you can see now, I'm on the press page branch. Now I can go to my coding window. Okay, cool. I'm doing my keyboard shortcuts. I got it figured out, I think. All right, so what we're gonna want to do is go to scenes. The way our file structure is set up, and I'm trying to kind of like, describe this as I go. Hopefully everything's tracking for you guys. Let me check the channel really quick. All right, I can also check the YouTube live chat. No, nobody. Okay, cool. Let's get back to work then. So the way our setup is, we've got scenes right here. And what does that really mean? I would say that scenes is another word for app. Our idea in file structure was eventually that, we've got home, which is like our static web page. I think eventually we're going to have multiple platforms under scenes that, might have their own React stores, and stores are a way for data to kind of transcend a single web page and stay consistent as you navigate a scene. So in other words, the data and the content that you might see in the home page will potentially be different than the content you'll see on applications that we have ideas for in the future. One example would be we have a mentorship platform that we'd like to set up where mentors can easily keep track of their mentees and maybe set goals for them, and mentees can easily see who their mentor is, see their contact information, and potentially kind of have a platform for them to report their progress. And the goal there, again, is just to have some data on our members and trying to earn more money for the organization to fight the good fight. And secondarily, but also, in my opinion, more importantly, it's about creating a better system for American veterans to learn about coding. And making sure that your mentor can keep track of you is a good way of setting that up. So anyways, we only have one scene, that's home, and that's our web page. That's like kind of our static web page. Right now it contains some of our dynamic information, but I think eventually we'll be separating that. Home.js kind of acts as our router. So as you can see, there's a lot of code going down here, and I don't want to try and overphase you with too much React. But essentially, every React page is going to look really similar, where you've got imports, and none of it, usually they won't be as long as this. Typically from the top 1, 2, or 3 lines, it'll be imports directly from React, things that you'll need to do React-y stuff. This is a utility that we use for cookies on the website. And then as you progress down, you'll see that we're just importing straight up scenes from our home scene, or pages rather. I would count all of these as pages. So basically it's saying like import the content from our landing folder for the landing page. And if I do a Command F on financial statements, it'll take us down to the root. So as you can see, we imported it just to plug it in as a component here, so that the React router knows that if you go and type in about/financial statements, and I'm also gonna I need to really control myself in not adding scope bleed, but I really want to add an underscore route as well. I'm gonna show you what that would be like, because somebody might type this instead, and we want that to be okay. So we could leave the code like this, for instance, and that would mean that if you type financial dash statements or financial underscore statements, that it'll route to that page. We don't. So, and we actually do have that kind of system set up for some of the pages, like code schools. So as you can see, if somebody types in operationcode.org/codeschools underscore or dash, it will take them to the code schools page. So that's the route. No, I don't want to save the changes I made. And it is time for us to make a new folder. So I'm going to do new folder. I'm going to do press. And looking back at the wireframe, let's see if I got that right. No, I didn't. I'm trying to press my keyboard shortcut. Okay, cool. So looking back on the wireframe, we're going to have, it looks like a section-based kind of system. In my mind, I want to think about extendable code. What do I really need to offload? What doesn't really belong inside its own press page, and what might get changed often? For one, I think of these links are going to be kind of data-driven. So I think I might want to make a press release list component where I have all of these things rendered properly and it reduces repeat code. Additionally, I could foresee a day where we have tons of videos and tons of photos, and that would also be data-driven, maybe by some kind of API endpoint that just has links to YouTube videos. So I think I'm going to make a media component that can take URLs as a prop, for instance. That sounds best. And then we have a very widely used component in Operation Code called the section component, which pretty much provides us this little box and this header and a margined content below the header. So, yeah. Let's go back to code. So I've made the press folder. I'm going to go ahead and make a new file. I'm going to call it press.js. I'm going to make another new file. We use CSS modules. There's a lot of different ways to bring in style sheets into React code. We tried to make it as beginner-friendly as possible with CSS modules because many people will recognize this kind of system. With React, there's this concept of JSX, and we likely should be adding the JSX file suffix to all of our component files to make it clear that these are JSX, but it doesn't matter. But the way that I was going with this is you should essentially treat this at some level as like HTML, CSS kind of setup. Because as you can see, if I open, let's open the frequently asked questions JS folder. Once you get to this render function, once you get to the return function, you can tell that it kind of looks like HTML, and that is by design. React's goal is to kind of contain everything you would need within one folder. We've decided to separate the CSS aspect of the development, but that's why I tried to mention that you should think of it kind of like HTML, CSS in each folder. So that's kind of what we've got going down. And you'll see how that's set up as I go through this. So I've got this plugin called, let me go ahead and make the remaining folders. Let's call it press released list. And I'm going to need a CSS file with that. Oh, autopilot. Another folder. Let's call it press. This media component could be used elsewhere, so let's say media container. You know what? I just said it out loud, and that should be a good cue. I said it could be used anywhere. Instead of containing the component within the press folder and making it weird to grab from other places, I'm going to take this moment to go to shared components. And as you can tell, these components are things that could be used around the entire website. So I'm going to make a new folder in here. And let's call it media container. And inside media container, I'll add the CSS and the JS file. And I can potentially imagine a situation where we even have more folders in here to conditionally render based upon the prop that we pass the component. And if you don't know about React, a lot of this sounds like jibber jabber, but essentially, if we kind of plug in the media container component, I want us to be able to tell that component like, hey, I want videos or I want photos, and it could render differently based upon that. And eventually we may set that up, but for now, let's just do media container JS and media container CSS. All right, we've got those set up. I think if I do a save, oh, I haven't set up my my development server. Let's go to terminal. You should see my terminal right now. I'm going to now make a new tab in my iTerm. I've set up a shortcut to do Command-Shift-T on the Mac, and that opens up a terminal in the same file path as the terminal I was just in. It's a nice little shortcut to have when you do this kind of setup, because my terminal is pretty much one tab has my development server, and one tab has my just kind of ready to go command line for when I want to do git commands. Because as you know, you can't, or as you may not know, once I run this, which opens my development server, I can't actually do any more commands in this tab. So that's why I like to have the other tab open if I need to do stuff. Oops, sorry about that. Hopefully my computer doesn't melt. It's been making a lot of noise during this streaming, but I think it's going all right. Okay, so the development server is starting. Eventually we will see that. In fact, I will open the browser. Okay, so you can see that it's loading. It's going to probably take a little longer than usual because of my computer dying. So in case you're curious, I've been typing yarn a lot. You may be more familiar with NPM. It used to be more complicated to describe, but now I can safely say that yarn is just NPM but faster. If you don't know what either of those are, NPM is a package manager, and therefore so is yarn. Essentially, they're used in JavaScript development to manage dependencies. If you use Python, the equivalent would be, we don't really have a perfect equivalent, but the idea equivalent would be virtual environment. It's just a way to make sure that when you ship code, everybody can get the same exact dependencies that you're using and try to prevent the problem of, oh, it works on my computer, when you tell somebody it doesn't work on theirs. This has taken quite a while, actually. Usually this is a lot faster, but I think my computer is just really, really taxed for resources, so give it a few moments. So yeah, I've explained yarn. I've been trying to explain the project structure. I don't want to waste too much of your time, so I'm going to go back to the coding aspect. Okay, so I've got, let me go ahead and save that. The reason why I wanted to bring up my development server, aside from it being a necessary step, is I was trying to see if I could just make all these blank files. We have a linter going on, and what a linter does is it checks for syntax errors, or as you code, it tries to prevent you from doing things that would make the code non-uniform. For example, if I don't know if this is exactly set up on our linter, but on some projects that I'm on, if I leave a trailing space like this on a file, the linter would go off saying no trailing spaces allowed. And that's a good thing because it makes sure that everybody's code is perfect and up to a decided standard. I actually have it set up on VS Code to where if I save, the trailing spaces are all just automatically deleted, which is nice. Okay, our development server is finally up and running. I can show you the browser. Excuse me. So here's what the website looks like on the development side. We've got some routes here. There's a code schools page. Here's an about page. And in the footer, you can go see contact. That's actually a bug. I don't know if you guys noticed that just now, but if you click on a link in the... That one works. That's weird. If you click on a link in the footer, it doesn't actually go to the top of the page. So we need to fix that at some point, maybe today. Anyways, here's the home page. I'm going to go back into the editor. And it looks like, so as I was saying, I wanted to see if the linter would be mad at me for making blank files, but it looks like it's not, so we are good to just kind of plow ahead having made these folders. So I'm going to try to organize this a little better. Let's move you over there. All right, cool. I've got all I need. I'm also going to kind of split this in half. I don't yet know the keyboard shortcut for it, so no, that didn't work. Oh, cool. There we go. So I can close this side and leave it here, and I'm going to open press release. I don't want press release. I want actual press. There we go. Okay. No, I already opened that. I want. That's what I want. Okay. So I have this cool thing called JSX snippets. On VS Code, you just go to extensions and look for React snippets. Not JSX snippets, React snippets. And the equivalent likely exists on Sublime and Atom and most of the major text editors and IDEs. All it means is I know that I'm going to often do this one. RCCPP means it's going to create a React component with ES6 module systems and prop type validation. Boom. So this is kind of like the go-to for most of our development. I don't know actually if this might be kind of overkill. I don't think we need prop. Oh, I'm kind of messed this up. I'm just going to do RCP for this one, which means no prop type validation. RSCP. There we go. That's the one that I wanted, RCC. Don't think we need prop types. I don't think this component is going to pass props. One cool thing about React, or not cool, but something you just got to remember and make it a memory. When you return a component, it needs to only have one containing HTML tag. So as you can see, this kind of starts off right away with that div made, and that's on purpose. We don't want to try to do this because I can actually show you now that I've made that save. Actually, it won't be a problem because we haven't linked this component. But if I were trying to render this component, I would get a bug. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there, and I'm going to link the component to one of the routes. I think the press is going to belong in the footer. So let's open up the footer component. Sorry to kind of jump around the board here, but I want to show you things as I go. And you know what? I need to see the route anyways, so this is what needs to happen. So link to, cool. Where do you think this should go? Should it go contact? I'm going to put it in the top one. I'm going to get rid of these notes. I don't think we need them anymore. We've pretty much filled this up. Eventually, wait, what's that to-do say? Yeah, I am doing so. Sweet, we've eliminated a to-do. Basically what these little two divs are, this is the top row and this is the bottom row in the footer. I'm going to go ahead and add link. This capitalized link component is different from an href, an anchor tag, in that it only references internal links. And this is good because it keeps history, and it's good for caching and also analyzing users' travels on our website. So let's do that, and it won't actually be done at this point because even though I just linked to this route, it actually doesn't exist. I'm trying to wait for an error. I don't know if it's going to come. Doesn't look like it. Okay. So we've implemented it in the footer. You know what? This is weird. Okay, yeah, my development server just takes a very long time. So I'm actually expecting an error. I don't get one. All right, cool. If I try and click on the link, I'm going to show you guys what just happened. As you can see now, we've got this press link. So if I click on it, 404. Okay, that's fine. I guess that's to be expected. So if I go to router now I need to make sure that we don't get a 404. We pass on the press component. So I need to go to home.js. I need to import press. And once I do that, I can add a route to the press. Oh boy, my linter is very slow. All right, as you can see, that red that was there. Why is this gone? Okay, so here's the issue that I was mentioning earlier. It's actually, my linter is actually looking inside the press file, and you can see that I'm trying to render two components within the return function, and it's like, hey, you gotta put everything in one tag. So it's letting me know before I even save, but I'm gonna save, and I should expect an error, and I know this is gonna take a while, but I do want to show you guys this. I can close the router for now. And if I go to the browser, boom, this is the problem I was talking about. So yeah, only one HTML tag at the same time. I should bring my editor, so we can get rid of this, and I won't waste too much more of your time considering how slowly my development server operates. But just know that now that I have done this, the page will render properly. There won't be an error. So I know right off the top of my head that I want to bring in our infamous section component. I want to see how people have been. I can't remember off the top of my head how to import shared components. There's probably a standard way, so I'm going to check this out. It's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, that's all we need to do. So now I have the section component at my disposal, and I kind of want to open it up. I think there's a better way of doing this with our storybook aspect, but I haven't learned how to use it. So for now, I just want to open up the section component and kind of see what props it expects from me. You can kind of analyze a component like this and see exactly what it needs to be passed to it, and you'll see what I mean. So let's make this section. And I'm going to go ahead and close it off early, and I'll make it a new line, and now I'm going to pass some props to it. So as you can see over here, it needs this kind of information. Anything that says, none of it says is required, which, okay, children is required. Okay, that's fine. So you don't want to render a section component unless there's content within inside of it. That's fair. That would be dumb if we just kind of put like a header line and use this whole component for it. ID is something that's asked for but not required. That's likely utilized for like anchor tags. It asks for a title. That I do want to provide for it. Let's go ahead and say press. It also asks for class name. Don't think we... This is actually interesting because I know that last week we... Excuse me. I know that last week we actually had a PR about removing the ability to add styles to this component. So that should not be there. I'm definitely not going to use it. I think what may have happened is we were in progress and it didn't get quite finished, but the goal is to remove actually this prop from this component because we don't want people to add their own styles to this div because we've been having consistency issues with our style sheets with that prop added. Anyways, theme. What are the theme options here? Let's try white. I think white and gray are all the options. Heading lines is true by default, and heading theme is dark by default. I like both of those, so I'm going to leave it at that. And I actually am not supposed to close the section like that. It's not a self-closing. So I'm going to do this, and basically what we can think of this section component now is like a div. And I know that we're going to have other section components, but if I go ahead and glance back at the wireframe, I'm going to kind of get going on this lorem ipsum stuff. So what should be rendering right now is just this header line. And now I know that I want some content, and I also want to have this kind of 3-column system set up that, if we look at mobile, breaks down to a single column thing. I know exactly how to do that, and I'm going to use Flexbox for it. And that reminds me, we need to import styles. So this is CSS modules at work. Pretty much in every component, we just do this. And we reference it, like let's say I'm just going to throw this element in here. We actually will need a paragraph element, but this is how we reference styles. I don't know, let's call it a paragraph. So if I went to the press.css and I have a paragraph class, the styles are associated with that class in this style sheet would also be associated with this p tag, and that's kind of how we use styles in our project. Okay, I don't want to add styles for that though, but I do want to do some lorem ipsum. I used to actually have a plugin on Sublime that kind of inserted some lorem ipsum for us. I'm not going to show you on my browser, but I am currently Googling lorem ipsum generator. I just want to throw some content in there, about a paragraph worth. And while that web page is loading, I'm going to do, let's do div. And at this point, honestly, I think we should make a shared I'm making a mental note to myself that we should be making a shared component for this kind of 3-column system because we use it now. This will be our 4th instance on this site, so we're doing a lot of repeat code that we should not be doing. So I'm going to make a mental note that we should make that shared component. I'm going to go ahead and call this styles dot, what would I call that? It was for the representatives, so I'll call it representative columns. That's grossly long. Press columns. Fine by me. Fill my style sheets. Let's do a press columns class. Display flex. Flex is really nice. It's a good way to have kind of grid-like format without bringing in like something massive like Bootstrap. You can also use CSS grid, but I've read a lot of articles that it's kind of overkill for this kind of purpose. So, and I also kind of have like a flex recipe, and this is also something I talked about in my Slack team. I've been doing this recipe a lot, and I'm thinking to myself that I should kind of work on a cool library that would allow us to kind of just add a modifier to our HTML, our components, that allows us to kind of insert this kind of CSS recipe because I'm using it a lot. So flex flow row wrap, all that means is I want the content to be displayed by row, and if there's not enough space in the window, then I want you to wrap it into multiple rows. Justify content is the way to horizontally display things. I'm going to do space around, and basically that means I'm going to do a O for an object, and underscore would be like spacing. So space around kind of renders things like that. If you imagine like your screen between here and here. And then the other one that I use a lot would be space between. Sorry, I said space around does that, but the other one I use a lot is space between, which renders things kind of like this. If you can imagine your screen being divided in this manner. But I don't want space between, I want space around for this one because I want it to be kind of centered based off the wireframe. And the last one that I use a lot in this is align items, which is vertical alignment of the container. And I just do center, and that means it's going to be centered within the section div. I forgot to close that. Cool. And I also want to make a few more columns. Class name. I'm looking at the wireframe really quick to see what the names of them were. So schools column. And I'm going to go ahead and do some copy pasta. And we're going to call it partner call and media call. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that, you know what? I'm going to be smarter about this. I'm going to do this might not be the best usage. I'm just not gonna try to introduce issues here, but this goes hand in hand with the fact that like I'm doing repeat code, so I constantly reimagine how to render this component, and in reality, I should probably just try to create a system where I can do like column container or whatever, like some kind of shared component. Anyways, P and then let's put this in its own. Okay. So right now I've got the intro paragraph and these 3 columns. And let's do, I know that the section headers are H2s. And so just kind of good HTML stylings is making sure that you descend in header strength. H3 sounds good for column headers. So let's call this code schools. I'm also going to make sure that it's inline. I don't think I want to make the header on its own kind of line. That's just kind of personal preference. And let's go ahead and copy Palsta. Potential partners. All right. I'm going to take this time to show you what I've got so far on the browser. If we go back here, we got an error. Interesting. Oh, okay. Sorry, we don't have an error. Ew, that is gross, huh? I need to figure out why it's rendering like that. What happens if I get rid of this? It's probably going to give me a problem with this. Yep, called that. I just want to make sure that this section component is rendering properly. And by properly, I mean that it should take up the full page. It's not. That is interesting. So at this moment, I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to put this content back in there. What I do want to now do is kind of go look at a successfully implemented section component. I thought that I'm doing it correctly, but apparently I'm not. Let's look at About and see how they utilize it. Theme, white, title, white. Seems to be correct. That's weird. Yeah, I thought I was using it correctly, and it looks like I am. Because as you can see on this About page, I know that this is rendered properly. There's no extra components going down here. I wonder what's in the About section paragraph. Yeah, section paragraph not even a style. So that should be a refactor that we just like remove this section paragraph thing. Weird. Oh, I haven't even been looking at the code editor. I apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and do some Chrome inspection and see if I can figure out what's going down here. I just now saw your comment. You're the first person to comment. Sorry about that, KS. You shouldn't be seeing the lorem ipsum thing. Hopefully you see... Hopefully you see the OC website now. That's what it looks like on my end. I'm sorry for not switching over to the code editor there. But I couldn't really find any issues. I looked at another page to see whether or not I was using the section component properly, and it looks like I was. So I'm going to just kind of expect this and see why it's not rendering properly. Huh. If I go to code schools, that's rendering properly. I wonder what home looks like here. Home in a div. Let's go back to press. Home in a div. So it is very interesting to me that this div does not work properly. Let's check one more time. Over here, I want to look at this div. What does this div say for styling? Nothing really crazy. What's this section component say? Okay, let's go back and look at the style sheets for their section component. Maybe I just don't have enough content. I'm gonna keep coding, and usually this isn't the best situation, but I'm just gonna kind of keep going here. Let's see if I can get it to work out. I added another section. If I go back to the wireframe, we want releases, so I'll go ahead and make the releases section. And I'm going to remove. Interesting. Very interesting. What if I get rid of this? Does that? No, still doesn't let it render fully. This is a very new situation. Usually we use the second component with no problems at all. I'm very confused as to why this is a situation now. And since I'm using the component identically as it is being used in other components, it's doubly a weird issue. So we'll figure this out. But you're going to have to give me some time. Oh my goodness. I think I know what the problem is. And let's find out if it indeed is the issue. I'm going to switch to this code editor. Okay. Sorry about the delay there. Now that I know somebody's talking to me on the live coding channel, I can keep communicating with you. The issue that I think is going down here is that I never named this component. So let's go ahead and call this press. And I also have to make that change down here. Let's see if that fixes the situation. It's really finicky to me if that does fix the situation, because as you could see, some of the content rendered. It didn't fix the situation. Sorry for not showing you the browser, but it is identical to what it was before. It's still doubly confusing to me. I'm going to go ahead and bring you back to the code editor. Let's see why. Let's look at another successful usage of this section component. Should be under about is fine. React component. Looks all good. Yeah, I can't quite imagine what the problem would be. This is very interesting. Did I accidentally make a change to the section component? I don't think I did. But this is weird, y'all. I'm going to go to my terminal, see if maybe I made some change somewhere. I'm going to do git status. I'm going to check out everywhere that I made a change. So I'm going to go ahead and look at it doesn't make sense to me though, because like as you can see, if I go back to my browser and if I look at another page, if there was some problem that I instantiated somewhere, it should show up in every component that uses section, not just the press one. As it stands, press is the only one having problems. This is very weird. All right. What I'm going to do is open another tab. Sorry for this to get confusing, but I'm going to open localhost up again, and I'm just going to do a side-by-side comparison of a successful implementation of the section component as well as this thing. I'm actually going to see if... Cool. Okay, we're on board here. Kelly, let me know if you find the issue here. I'm going to check on the YouTube chat, see if anybody's talking. No, okay. All right. So let's go ahead and give us some breathing room right here. I don't know if you can see my second window. I was working pretty hard on trying to get the OBS to work properly, which is the streaming software for the streaming software that I'm using for YouTube. Okay. So I'm going to look at home. Let's start at home. Okay. Right off the top, ID, React root class. So where is our React root class? Why is it out of order? Do you guys see that? That's weird. No, you don't see that actually. Let me see if I can... I'm going to change this from a window capture to a display capture. I'm sorry, the screen is going to go blank for a minute. In fact, I have this ready for you. Never mind, we're live. I'm going to have to just fix this. Sorry about the blank screen. Give me a moment. I'm going to give you the actual window. There we go. Then you can see my ugly little setup here. Okay, cool. And I'll try to decrease this so you can see it. All right, cool. We're all set up there. So what I was trying to go through is analyzing the successful implementation with the not working implementation. And one thing that I noticed, and you will notice as well, if you look very closely, sorry about this horrid little setup here. In fact, I can make this a little easier by doing this. Okay. Okay, so if I select here, let's look at header. So I'm going to start at root, actually, dvid root, and I'm going to start in the same area over here. So the one difference that you can see is you kind of come through, so root, check. You guys both have a root right underneath the body. The next thing I see is React root class. Okay, check. I see that as well. So if you go down one more time, this was different a minute ago. So it should read body root home header home. Body root home header home. This is strange. So now if I go inside the home, this div seems to be rendered across the entire width, but this one does not. Let's see if there's any style differences. Down at the bottom, same. If I scroll up to HTML inherited, same. This is quite the weird little bug that we have to deal with. Okay. This is only in play because this screen is a lot wider than the one on the right. So that's fine that that's different. Going up to display div, everything's the same on that level. We can descend now one level further. Let's look at why the section classes are different. So, same. Let's scroll down to div block. Hold up. Okay, yeah. Down to div block. Everything looks the same. This is beyond me. This is such a weird little bug. Let's say that I remove these. I'm gonna remove the, or rather, I'm gonna uncomment the styles. Let's see if that fixes the situation. I removed the style sheets that I had attached to the paragraphs within. Now that made it worse somehow. Sorry about the specific text issues. This bug is actually very strange. I'm going to go ahead and take a break because I feel like I'm wasting your guys' time. I did not expect to run into an issue at this early of a stage. This is a very strange problem because we've used this component with no problem literally everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and put the stream on a breather. I'll be back in, let's say, hopefully 15 minutes to give you guys an update. All right. All right, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I was doing my best to try to debug this issue before I came back online, but I wasn't able to yield any results. The problem that we're running into, and as people in the Slack channel are talking to, a lot of coding is about debugging, so this is fine. It is rather a really strange issue, though. So we use this section component very often on our website, and I am trying to utilize it inside of our new press page, and it seems to not be rendering properly. As you can see, the div that the section resides in doesn't span the width of the page. I've actually done like a side-by-side look at the style sheets between implementations, and I found 0 differences between style sheets from the root to the router container to the section, nor to the internals of the section. So kind of at a loss here. So I can kind of do the side-by-side comparison again, and I could show the code, but I also know that that is exactly as it should be. It's identical, for instance, to other working components like the About page. So yeah, let's go ahead and open a new window really quick so you can see a side-by-side comparison. So here is a page where the section component is utilized properly. And as you can see, it renders very differently. As it should, rather. If I open up the inspector, and let's go ahead and go to the root to analyze both the HTML differences between the working and not working page and the style sheets. So we're at the root on both levels. It's right below body. As you can see, the style sheets are identical. No differences. If we go to the React root class, otherwise known as the router container for our purposes, you can see that there's no real differences. There's no differences at all between the container in HTML, nor are there differences in the actual CSS of the container. One more level down, I don't know why it would be the header, but let's go ahead and see the header. It should be the same. It is. Go down one more to this looks to be the actual content container provided by the React router. If you look at the style sheets, no differences, nor are there any differences in the HTML implementation. Sorry about the low quality of the video. If it is, I can try to zoom in here. Hopefully that makes it a little better. tough to serve up while I've got on these little monitors. So anyways, I was looking at the Slack team. Sorry for the silence there. Now we go into the actual components div. And here's where the difference lies. But as you can see, there is no difference in the style sheet. So I'm pretty much at a loss at this point. Both the HTML and the style sheets are the same, except this div doesn't span the width of the container, and this one does. Going down one more into the actual section component. Again, identical HTML and identical CSS. Maybe it's in the header, so we can look at the header to see if there's any difference there. Nothing. Let's go down to the font size. Nothing. There's the actual font. Still nothing. And still nothing. Let's look at section content. To the top. Again, HTML is identical. CSS is also the same. So Seth is trying to point out that he thinks I should be doing absolute paths to the shared component, but that does not explain why other components render the shared components properly with the relative paths. So if I go back to my code editing editor, let's see if that takes me there. Cool. So if I go back to my coding editor, the point that I'm trying to make is, no, the point that he's trying to say is I should be pulling from, here, let's just do this again. So if I want to import section, yeah, that's fine. Section from shared components section, and then one more section. I don't think this is the problem, especially since the HTML is obviously pointing to the HTML and CSS are pointing to the fact that we have the components in play. I've made the changes and saved, and now the page is compiling. I guess I'll probably just eat my words if it works correctly, but I don't feel like this should be the issue. Yeah, it's not. So yeah, that's one idea down. Oh man, my computer is really dying right now. I can't even move. Why you no worky? Okay there, chill out. Okay. Well, the only page I'm having on the issue is the one that I'm trying to create right now. So every other page works fine. As you can see, like this about page has the section component rendering properly, and I'm gonna bring it to the code. I'm in the code editor now, so I can show you like there is no difference at all with the implementation between the page that I'm trying to use and let me see if I can hide these. Can I hide them? Whatever. Point being, like, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this again. And so then they're exactly the same implementations where I'm importing section, all the same components. I have the syntax exactly the same on this type of component rendering. And you can see it goes div and then section, div and then section. And I've tried even just like removing the contents because of style sheets. I do have like if I just if I were to just go straight for a P element, I will still run into the same issue. I'm going to go ahead and close this tab out because it's clear that that's not going to help us at all. Yep. Sorry about there's a pretty large delay, Seth. So if you have an idea, just go ahead and spit it out in Slack ASAP. Yeah, sorry about that. That's obviously going to be an issue. I just commented out the styles import, and the page will render, but it's still going to render broken since we've already tried this. So for those of you who are watching it or not in the Slack team, I'm getting assistance from one of the other contributors. We're trying to work through this problem. It is a very strange issue. So yeah, still no issue. Like I said, this is very, very weird. We've been using this component, no problem. I did not expect to run into a situation right here, of all places. A tiny part of me thinks that maybe the issue is related to I don't know what it could be related to, honestly. I can go ahead and delete tertiary files, but that doesn't explain. I was thinking of maybe deleting any of the files that I'm not utilizing that I've added, but that doesn't explain the fact that other pages with the section component are rendering properly. If I go to home.js, we can see that I've routed the press page exactly the same as this page, which is using section correctly, and I've imported it exactly the same. So the issue should not be within home. I'll check to see if maybe there was some other reference that I should have touched upon, but I don't think there is. Yeah, there's not. So shouldn't be in the home. There shouldn't be a problem there. Oh boy. Seth. We could maybe do a hangout. I'm gonna go ahead and take it on a break because I really want to get past this dumb issue. Honestly, with timing wise, I was hoping to be pretty much done with this page at this point. So this is a weird situation. I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on another hold, and I'm gonna work through this issue because this isn't something you should deal with, and I have no idea why it's a bug. So please hold.